about a 12 item list that I send to the client. We go through all the ways that we can decrease anxiety, and I tell them at the end, I want it to be like you just got out of a jacuzzi. And you know that feeling, oh my God, like that felt so good. So keep using the skills till you get there, because otherwise, and I tell this to my couples, if you take that hour and you don't decrease it enough, the argument starts again. And I consider myself an expert in the area of infidelity, which is strange, but I do have this unique way of working with couples that gets them through their issues pretty fast. And infidelity, on average, about 6 sessions, and they're kind of off and doing good. Or they're divorced. And then I send them to a mediator. Really good mediator, friend of mine, Stephen Unruh, that I just think is wonderful. So we need to do that. We need to use coping skills in order to decrease what they're feeling. All right, so now we're moving on to case vignettes. I have no idea what time that says. Anybody want to give me a...
10:40.
I think we're good. Okay, so I'm going to think of... That's a couple. Okay, I'm going to think of a couple that came to me a while back and just give you a bit of information, and if you have questions, I'm happy to entertain them. A couple came in. They wanted to, well, it was the man bringing in the wife. She was, the identified patient, sick as hell, or at least that's what he said. And he was afraid that now that their house was full, and I mean, these people make bucks. Beautiful, large, square footage, full. They were thinking of getting another house. Now they can live in the new one. And they'll figure the other one out later. So that's when they came in. Prominent, important people, very successful. Turns out, he may have a bit of the hoarding problem too, shockingly enough, because you cannot live with somebody unless they have some complicity to what's going on. So they came to me for quite some time. I asked them I was directive in terms of, you tell me which area you'd like to work on, and then come back the next week and report what happened. And we're just going to notice, and we're not going to make a judgment about it, but we're just going to see if you did it. If you didn't do it, no harm, no foul. That doesn't mean that you're bad or broken. And they come back again and again, and we're not really getting anywhere. And she wouldn't answer questions directly. And then she went for office, which was interesting. But we really weren't getting anywhere. Then the husband got pissed. He got angry enough that it kind of broke through that cycle, and she saw that even though she had a really good marriage, he wasn't going to put up with certain things. There were deal breakers in there for him. And when he started doing that, then the changes started happening. And, the loft was clean, and this was clean, and it started working. And I don't know, because, they never tell you what happens in the end unless somebody else reports at some point. You don't know how happy the couple is when they leave you or anything. Yes?
Two questions ethically. You have to report when I did CPS for kids, you have to report if there's danger, communication. So if you're working with a couple and one of them is growing green stuff and eating with rats, etc., you have to do an AP report.
I would. Yeah, definitely CPS would have to be involved, because there's neglect to the children if they're living in unhealthy conditions.
And then because because it's not a juvenile, does somebody have to do guardianship type filing or?
Sometimes there's conservatorship, but you know that's near to impossible to get. So, and it's a lengthy process. But we discuss all those things as options, just like with the case study, say that again. You're talking about code compliance and all the different ways, all the different consequences that can happen, including losing their home. You know, sometimes it takes them to know they're going to lose their home, their children, before they do something.
Okay, and she will remove the stuff, but not a person.
Right. So that's where code compliance comes in. That's where APS comes in. That's where CPS comes in. They're doing the parenting that nobody did. There's not boundaries in the family system. It's not healthy. I mean, in all those ways, it's a dysfunctional family system that needs help. It makes perfect sense. So, I don't know what happened to the couple, but now we've got an individual. And I can think of somebody right off the bat, somebody that was absolutely motivated to come in and get help. And she missed a lot of appointments. She was late to a lot of appointments. She's got shifting appointments. You guys ever deal with that? What do we usually call that? And maybe borderline. So there was a bit of both. Well, I don't know if you have a bit of borderline, but however that works, there was both. And of course, resistance. And so I used that as a clinical discussion. I noticed that. It's okay, like if you're trying to pull back from therapy, not a problem. Would you like to renegotiate how often you come? And she was highly offended because in her mind, I was criticizing her and judging her, and that's the borderline part. And so I never saw her again, and to be honest with you, I was grateful because it was frustrating, and I don't like to create resentment, and I see no point to doing that. So if I'm starting to feel like I'm going to be resentful, then I know I'm not managing my own boundaries correctly, so I managed my own boundaries correctly. And that took away that. So they like to engage you, and sometimes they are borderline and OCD and hoarding, and sometimes they're not. It just depends. But this particular one was. And she had, I don't know how many storage places all the way up and down the coast of California that she would stop in and drop stuff off. And then I had an ex-boyfriend or something that his house was full, that she would stop by occasionally. That's the problem with the hoarding, is they give it to their family members and their family members take it in. I had this experience. So when my mom was alive, she would bring toys to my children. And I told my children that whatever grandma gives you, give it to me when she's gone, and then I'd throw it away. They knew. They had been in her house, they knew. And so that's what I do. And that's what I direct my clients to do. You let them know that you're not going to be keeping their things, and that you only have to say it once. After that, you just throw them away. I could not have my mother there when we went through her things because she would have gone crazy. We tried the first time and it didn't work. So when we eventually went through her house, which took almost a month with a huge team and so many dumpsters I can't even tell you, which ended up in a storage unit for years and years until my sister sold whatever she sold. I don't know, because I I made a choice not to be involved with that. But that's what can happen. And then we have an entire family system. And they're frustrated that their loved one is not getting rid of the things, and they're a huge piece of the problem. And that's where I go in and I use Al-Anon techniques, and we talk about codependency and enmeshment and enabling and all of that stuff. And I honestly usually meet with them once or twice. That's it. Because once they've got the techniques, either they're going to use them or they're not. I can reinforce it. I'm happy to do so. But they know now how they have been a part of the problem. So those are my favorites, because I'm like, bring them all. Like, bring 10 people. I don't care. Whoever's willing to come. I'll even, we can do telemedicine. Doesn't matter, because under my integrated health and recovery coach, I can do more globalized, or under my licensure here, then I can still do it within the state of California. So I can help more, but through you guys even more, which is my heart. Okay, so I am working on an online course currently to certify clinicians that work with hoarding behaviors. It will be available soon. It says by the end of the year, but I don't work that way. Yes?
I just wanted to say before we left the family system idea, I had a client that came in, because I haven't seen a hoarder come in. I always hear from the family members. And I had a severely abused domestic violence victim come in, and in discussing home life, and I know this is definitely oversimplifying, but she never, as far as her remembrance, she was never able to sleep in her own bedroom because her mother was a hoarder, and the storage was up almost to the ceiling. She grew up sleeping in a chair, recliner chair, in their living room. And in a very, I'm just saying, in a very oversimplified way, I know I'm sounding, but her take on it was her mother cared more about these things than providing a home or allowing her to have her own bedroom. And she grew up feeling extremely devalued. She lived in her mother's world, and it was all about the mom, and there was no room for her. And so she was very vulnerable to anyone else abusing her, because she had no intrinsic value herself.
Yeah, resilience.
I think that's what it says to the family. I know I'm oversimplifying it, but it basically says to the family, I value these things over you.
No, I don't think you're oversimplifying. That's how many people, that's their core belief when they get raised like that. Transformational training would say that you can shift that at any time. You can tell yourself a new story. You can say that mom had a problem with her brain and wasn't able to do more, and that's sad. And so that's what I chose to do about my own mother. I forgave her and was with her as she passed. And eventually we did take her out of her home and put her in assisted living, and didn't let her rehoard, because they don't let you rehoard in those organizations. Eventually was in the dementia unit, and I chose to love her and forgive her. So it's a choice.
I have a question.
I'm afraid you're going to heckle me.
No, I don't.
Well, you asked in the beginning, because anybody who knows me knows I'm,
So it's just been kind of sticking in my head here that statistic about prevalence, that it's so much higher in older adults. And I'm wondering if you can speak to that, if it's just a function of, as the disease progresses, that's where you see it more severely, or if there's a generational component to it, or I'm just curious about that.
All the above. So usually as they get older, they're more isolated. Their, husbands or wives die, or they leave them, and then it progresses, or they they're lonely, so it progresses. You know, there can be any number of reasons, but it does. It just does. That's why, how many elderly people seek therapy? You know, there's not a lot of old school people that believe that you should do that. So, what do you do?
Part of my curiosity there is a lot of this stuff I see through, generations of my own family or my in-laws. It's like not to the degree of being anything clinical, but that idea of like you need to hold on to it in case you're going to use it sometime. Just like saving things or whatever, which we had always kind of chopped up to like, oh, they lived through the Depression. And so that's why they have these.
But that is a piece of it.
Okay.
And that's really common. You're either the child of a Depression mother or father, or they were raised by them and still got the same mindset. Yeah, that's a huge piece. So you could chalk it up to that, but it will get generally progressively worse. So watch those people. Yeah.
When we moved to our new house, my mother-in-law said, "Oh, you have such a big garage. I could like bring stuff." You so gotta watch those people. Yeah. Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's not a clinical client. It's someone that I know through a pastor at a local church here. And he is now the conservator of an elderly lady who's living on her own without family. And she's, I think, between level 3 and 4, but closer to 4, it sounds like. And so he's very sensitive to her needs of wanting the animals and the belongings and all of that. So he hasn't gone in and done anything by force. But I think at this point they were at a loss of what the first, second, and third steps are to help this lady get out of her unsafe living conditions.
How old is she?
I think she's over 65, maybe.
Okay. So then
70, I wanna say.
I often ask people to call APS and code compliance and ask them what they would recommend in that case. If it's over, the stuff is kind of going past their property lines or in their backyard, code compliance will get involved, neighbors will be seeing it, and that will be happening. But APS, certainly because of the nature of she needs to be taken care of. So that's where I suggest the families to start with.
Okay. She didn't. Okay. I'll pass them on the
Okay.
cards that you want. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question over here.
Yes.
I'm wondering then, are people who are quote collectors, are they like mini hoarders? I mean, is
Are you asking for yourself? That's for a friend, right? Okay, that's cute.
my former wife collected mushroom things, and so we had mushroom statuettes, or she was also a thinker.
Let's just say you can be a collector. You can be a collector, but how many things can you collect and then it turns you into a hoarder? I don't have any statistics on that. But if you start to see it's an issue that's affecting their life, then you will. And
Archivist.
an archivist. Are you an archivist?
No, but I read a cartoon.
Got it. Okay, so, you judge, and they'll judge. I say they should judge. I don't, it's not my job. So, I do consultations. I consult with hoarding clients, I consult with hoarding families and friends, and I consult with therapists. And references and Q&A, which we've been doing. And the last thing is, I would like you to email me at email@carolatkinson.com for further information about the upcoming course if you're interested, and or if you need the presentation. And that is it.
I